Okay, I know I said my next video was gonna be that unhinged webcomic I found, but hear me out, this is important. I've been following the development of Frog Island for a while, ever since the first devlog popped up in my recommendations. Being created by a small indie developer aptly named DevFrog, they've been making videos going in depth into the conceptualization and creation of their cozy little frog game, Frog Island. Slotted for release in March 2025, and with no demo, all of the information we have on this game can only be seen through the devlog videos he's posted throughout its development. But that doesn't mean I can't still overanalyze this cute little game, because recently I was rewatching some of their videos and realized something. There's secret lore here, and I don't mean that in the traditional way of dialogue or notes or anything, no. Today's all about the implications, because thanks to one character, it flips the game on its head, and I'm confident that I can figure out this game's lore before it's even released. But first off, what is Frog Island? Based on Neko-Tsune and Stardew Valley, Frog Island is a hand-drawn life sim game where you collect and take care of magical frogs, grow crops, and explore the island and its mysteries. There's also lots of cozy mechanics like a cooking and alchemy system, which I'll get into later. Now, you might think a game like this has no story. I mean, Neko-Tsune doesn't, but if you thought that, you'd be wrong. Although minimal, we get a bit of lore which we are told both in the Steam description as well as the first devlog. Trapped on a deserted island, you are greeted by a mysterious woman who asks you to take care of her frogs while she is away. We also know from devlog 0 that there is planned to be a full story. But why am I so confident I've cracked the code? Well, let's take a look at some more of these devlogs. In devlog 1, DevFrog shows off the cooking system, where you can cook dishes for your frog friends. Introduces us to our first character as well, this salmon-colored frog named Chef Frog, who I will protect with my very heart and soul. In devlog 2, we learn about the shop system, where we are introduced to yet another frog character named Frog Merchant, who can sell you decorations, toys, seeds, and ingredients. Devlog 3 gives us photography, including the frog compendium. Log 4 gives us bug jars, and log 5 finally brings us the frogs themselves, who can each gift you things as thanks, much like Neko-Tsune. They can also be interacted with via the frog thought system, showing us what the frogs want, including bonus interactions like conversations and frog songs. We then get our first teaser trailer where the Astro Frog seems to talk to us, expressing surprise because they hadn't had any visitors in a long time. Lastly, as of writing this, devlog number 6 tells us about some improvements that they've made on things like the inventory and spawn rates. It's also alluded that we may have to explore ruins and complete side quests for the frogs. There's apparently going to be another devlog coming on the 26th that will introduce us to fishing, so I'll link it down below if it's released by the time this video comes out. However, with all that in mind, I think I've got a few questions and a few answers. Inside the Steam page, the trailer, and a few other things, we're told that these frogs are magical. But magical how? Second, who is this mystery lady and why are they entrusting their frogs with someone who just arrived on this deserted island? And thirdly, why do these frogs act so differently from normal frogs? Why can some of them communicate with us like Chef Frog and Merchant Frog are canonically able to? Well, before I can give my proposed answer, let's talk about witches. I'm sure you're more than familiar with the trope of witches turning people into frogs, a la Frog Prince, Bewitched, what have you. It's so much of a trope, it's more common to see it subverted in some way than actually used nowadays. But what if someone was turned into a frog and never got turned back? Say they were forced to stay a frog, maybe got themselves a frog wife. What would happen to that next generation? Well, who's to say their children wouldn't then have the sense of awareness that a human would? But being a frog their whole life from birth, they wouldn't feel any need to become human, and would instead be content because that's all they know. They'd prefer the simplicity of life as a frog, and should those generations keep going, maybe they'd, I don't know, have a village of frog people? With the awareness of a person, it makes sense why they act the way that they do. It makes sense why some can communicate with you and understand you. It would make sense why they have their own personalities, their own likes and dislikes, their own preferences, and even an understanding of gratitude and the economy. Basically, what I'm saying is that Frog Island is an island inhabited by the children of frogs turned human that never got turned back. That's why they're more sentient and aware. But let's get into even more evidence. Now, as I mentioned before, Chef Frog and Merchant Frog are stated canonically to be one of the only frogs to understand and communicate with you according to the Steam page. They also prove this themselves. Merchant Frog has a strong understanding of exchanging goods and services, as well as how money works on a fundamental level. In fact, they even have a tip jar which could show even more of an understanding of the human services industry. Chef Frog understands cooking and recipes and helps you time heating of the pot, showing an understanding in complex food making. Because of that, it could suggest that Chef Frog and Merchant Frog are some of the remaining inhabitants inhabitants that originate as humans turned frogs, but are content with that and have fully embraced this way of life. After all, frogs don't have to pay their taxes. However, it seems like other frogs can still understand on a basic level. Although they don't really speak, during a frog thought there's a chance for the player to talk with them, where they'll ribbit and you'll be given 2 choices on how to respond, and you'll be given trust according to what you choose. The fact that it varies shows that although we may not know what they're saying, they understand what we're saying. In the teaser trailer, we actually do get one frog that speaks to us, Astral Frog. Astral Frog says, "How strange. We haven't had a visitor in a long time. But why can Astral Frogs speak but not the others?" Well, chances are it's more so of a choice. Babies don't instantly learn their chosen language once they're born, but with the frogs having enough intelligence to learn it, many likely wouldn't deem it necessary outside of learning certain keywords to generally understand what their caretakers are saying. But the others, like the merchant frog, would want to learn some so they could properly interact with customers, both frog and non-frog. However, some may just want to learn more for fun, or to help translate for other frogs. And with the mystery lady, there's a good chance she could teach the ones who do want to learn that. Continuing along the communication standpoint, devlog 6 confirms that the game will be having side quests. But how do you get a side quest from a frog without them being able to communicate that to you? How would they have the ability to understand that an exchange must take place upon the quest being completed? Again, the frogs are intelligent enough to do so because they're the descendants of humans turned frogs. They have the brain power and possibly even the knowledge to understand exchange and deals. But outside of the frogs, it's important to think about that other question too. Who is the mystery lady? All we know about them currently is that they own the island, that they're leaving for whatever reason, and that before they left, they tasked us with taking care of the frogs. But in the teaser trailer, we know that we're new here. As Astral Frog mentioned, visitors aren't frequent here, so we clearly aren't a resident. Why trust us with a task so important? What if we don't know how to care for the frogs and make them happy? What if we're neglectful? What if we hate frogs? What if we start punting them into the sea? Also, where is she going? It's stated to be a deserted island, and given the fact there's a years counter, there's a very real possibility that she doesn't come back. Or if she does, she just lets us take care of her frogs now? It just seems odd. Even more so if you consider my theory above, where these frogs are born from transformed human frogs. Well, here's my answer, and I believe it answers everything. I think that the mystery lady is actually a reformed witch who died before they could turn the ancestor frogs back and greatly regretted it, watching over the island and eventually creating us from the afterlife to be the guardian of the island so we can care for the generations of frogs and so she can be put at ease and move on to the afterlife. Now, although we don't have a lot of information on the mystery lady, we do have a lot of information about ourselves, even if it's not directly pointed out by DevFrog. We seem to pick up on how to care for the frogs surprisingly fast. Same goes for cooking and the soon-to-be implemented alchemy mechanic. Alchemy isn't a very common skill, but witches? They know it like the back of their hand, and familiars are often shown as knowing whatever their creators know. Just to slip it in here, the reason I think the witch is a ghost of some kind is because as soon as we arrive, they leave and entrust us with the frogs. And on top of that, with this being a deserted island, there's not many places to go other than by boat. But given the years counter, her not returning in that time definitely indicates she either was never planning on returning or was never alive to begin with. She simply moved on. Back to us though, we don't eat, we don't sleep, in fact we never leave, as again there's a years counter. Wouldn't we at some point want to leave and head home if we were just some random person? Well, not if we were created here. This is our home because we were created by the witch. In fact, back to the frog thoughts mechanic, it shows we can to some extent read the frog's thoughts. We can tell when they want either a snack or a meal, when they want to talk, when they want to sing, when they want a photo taken, and even when they want to be scrubbed, all without them raising a froggy finger. These all wouldn't make sense for some random schmo off the street to know or have the innate talent for. But there's one thing that gets in the way of this. On the Discord server, DevFrog will occasionally talk and give details about the game, and in the QA section, they say the following. Question: will the player's character be seen in the game? Answer: the game will be played from a god perspective where the player is simply scrolling their screen to move around the island. However, the player's character, a human, might be visible in some cutscenes. So we know the character is human. Wouldn't that disprove this whole theory? Wouldn't that just mean that everything I pointed out is just a plot hole or not that deep? Well, no! In fact, I have two proposed solutions for this. Theory 1, it could be an enchanted prophecy of some kind that the witch created either before dying, or if they're not dead, before they left. Basically, something saying that whoever next comes to the island will become its guardian, which just so happened to be our player character. And upon this being activated, all will to leave the island will just vanish. But in return, we learn all those nifty little skills like Frog-o-pathy, cooking skills, alchemy, and more. Theory 2, we were still created by the witch, however she chose to have her form be that of a human so it'd be more comfortable to the frogs. After all, human hands are pretty good at catching bugs, picking and planting crops, and petting. After all, in a world where humans can be turned into frogs, it's not too surprising that they could turn something else human, right? To put it short, I believe that the frogs here are either the children of transformed frogs, explaining their higher understanding of human concepts, or transformed frogs that do not wish to be human and are vibing their cozy little frog lives, sitting on cozy furniture, eating bugs and salads, getting belly rubs whenever they want, and living life to the fullest. I believe that the mystery woman is actually a witch who regrets turning people into frogs, passing before she could return them to normal. She instead became a ghost wandering the island and taking care of the frogs for many years, till eventually they were able to create us, or we arrived depending on the theory, and pass that job on to us, finally moving on and allowing for us to become the new guardian of the island, tasked with giving the frogs their own utopia. So what do you think about my theory? Are we the guardian of the forest? Are the frogs smart because they're the children of the transformed? Is it too early to make a theory on a game before it's even released a demo? This was Spice from CutCafe, signing off. Oh no.